My academic background, I have a PhD from Capella University in organization management. I have a master's of business from Brenau University. And my bachelor is from Shorter University now in business management. And I have an associate degree. I'm originally from Florida. I have an associate's degree in computer information systems from Broward College. I spend primarily the entire time in corporate. This is a second act for me. Going back to school, getting the PhD, teaching full time at Gwinnett Technical College is a second act for me. And I spent about 15, no, maybe 16 years in corporate working for Volvo and Ford Motor Company. At the time, Ford owned Volvo. So I started out with Ford and I transferred over to Volvo. And I held various positions in network development, dealer development, and I was fortunate because I was able to do that around the world. I was able to live in China, Sweden, Malaysia. I did stints in the UK, working with dealers and different regions. I worked with countries coming out of communism, what they call European Union accession countries. So it was a wonderful career. During that time, I became a Six Sigma Black Belt. I'm also Six Sigma Green Belt. I obtained ISO certifications as an auditor, team leader. I'm also Myers-Briggs certified. So I did a little bit of stuff with Sarbanes-Oxley, things like that. But then I decided to, when I left the corporate world due to, the Great Recession, I transferred my efforts then into academia. I noticed, when I was working at an academic institution, and for some reason I ended up in the School of Humanities teaching writing and communication. And I noticed that students, they had 12 years of writing. They knew how to write. So many students would come to me and said, I'm not a good writer. And I said, well, no, I don't think it's the writing. I think it's the research and the reading. And so for 5 years, I was in the School of Business, which I thought was unusual, but I was teaching Communications 1, Communications 2, effective writing. And I noticed there was a gap, that when I taught the tools, the students' papers and the scores increased. They got better when I started teaching the tools. And then I noticed also that we have this great tool called the internet, but I started noticing how students search. And they'll put in a search term and they'll get 50 million hits. They'll go to page 1, they'll go to page 2. If they're conscientious, they'll go to page 3. And then they'll say, I can't find anything. And the final thing was, I noticed, because I was certified, as an ISO auditor and team leader, which is processes and procedures. And Six Sigma is auditing processes and procedures. That's part of Six Sigma, improving processes and procedures. I noticed that the writing process wasn't emphasized, and what tools you needed at what stage of the writing process. So also, I noticed that they weren't using quality management tools that we would use in business and apply to writing. For example, a teacher would say, okay, write a root cause analysis, do a root cause analysis. Well, I know in business, there's only one way really to do it. You have the Ishikawa diagram, or the fishbone diagram, which is cause and effect. pros and cons. We have tools for that in business. And so, the different tools that we use in business was not being applied to writing, like the affinity diagram for idea generation. Just throw it on the board, categorize it, and then once you categorize it, that can turn into your outline. Well, we use those tools in business all the time. So once I started teaching the tools and I mixed the tools with, how to search on the internet, all of a sudden grades start shooting up. And so I had something to say. I wrote because I had something to say. One of the most distinguishing features, like chapter 1, is getting your assets in order. Before you start anything, any project, any writing project, get your assets in order. And I think that's a distinguishing feature. I read through lots of textbooks and no one ever talks about getting your assets in order. And what I mean is, what does your library have to offer? What do you have already? What software do you need? Getting your assets in order. How are you going to back up your information? Are you going to use Google Drive? Are you going to use OneDrive? What are you going to do? What's the contingency plan? If something happens to that original document, what's the plan? Also, the second thing is I take the rhetorical modes of writing and I add quality management tools to the rhetorical modes of writing. So if you have to write a pros and cons paper, there's a tool for that. If you have to write like I say, cause and effect, there's a tool for that. So for every mode of writing, I have a quality management tool that we use in business to match up to it. The other thing is mixing the IT portion of that, like I said before, with the Google special syntaxes and the Bing query language, and putting that together with writing, because that is the research portion of it. Also, of course, using the aggregators, ProQuest, EBSCO, and introducing portals such as Google Scholar and how to use Google Scholar. And finally, it seems very basic, but another quality management tool is check sheets. So in the later chapters, chapter 9, I have check sheets. So, okay, here's what you do to edit your paper. Here's what you do to proofread your paper. Here is how to put together a paper step by step by step. Check sheets. And we use that in business all the time. It seems so simple, but it works. And the final piece is, and this is something I'm still growing and and putting on the website, are the videos and handouts. So everything that I use in the book, there are handouts for that. And there are also videos to show you how to do it. So those are some of the great features about the book. It has been wonderful. I'm surprised. I'm surprised at the reaction to the book, because students are now passing the book around. And I'm like, hey, don't pass it around, just buy your own copy. But right, but students are passing the book around. They love the book. They say, because they said they've never been exposed to the knowledge before. I've had students to say, now I go to the internet and I find exactly what I'm looking for. Because the book teaches Google special syntaxes and Bing query language, where you can go and use those syntaxes to find it, and it just pinpoints it right on the internet. Instead of searching, you can use the word file type and find all the files for your search term, for your keyword. And because we know that the internet is really nothing but your files and databases. So the students, it has been so great where students are using the book and telling their friends about it and spreading the word for me. And so I'm very excited about the reaction when you see that light. As a teacher, you can see the light. There is a light that shines in the eye when you know a student gets it. And all of a sudden when they start writing their papers and I'm going through the book with them, I can see the light in their eyes where the brain has engaged. And I'm very excited about the book because, you know, I had one student call me up recently. She decided she's finishing at Gwinnett Tech and she's going to go on to Colorado to go to school. And she said, I'm taking your book with me and I'm going to spread the word. And I'm like, thank you so much. So it has been well received. For the instructor, we have PowerPoints, test banks, discussion questions, and they also will have access to the videos. And something new that I'm working on right now for the publication, I'm trying to choose a learning management system, but the instructor will have access to an entire course. I love Kendall Hunt. And let me tell you why. Kendall Hunt came along at a time, it was January 2019. I was trying to decide whether or not to self-publish or go with the publisher. And I was still grieving because I had just lost my father in November of 2018. And when I came along, Kendall Hunt came along at the right time. And they made the publishing process so easy. And because I was still dealing with the aftermath of what was going on in 2018, the people were so friendly. They were so easy to work with. The publishing coordinator that I worked with, she was a dream. You know, we were just working like one unit. I love my acquisition editor, Aaron, because he listens to my ideas. He listens, he takes it further, talk with his managers about it, about my ideas, and he comes back to me and say, this is something that we can do. As a result, this webinar, this is something that we can do. So I think that Kendall Hunt is very personable. The people are wonderful. They make the publishing process easy. And I love your website that says you give us a license to create. Creation is hard work. We're working hard. But this was working with Kendall Hunt, I felt like was the completion of a cycle for me that had started so many years earlier of reinventing myself. And when I published the book, that was the completion of the cycle. And now I'm in a new phase. And Kendall Hunt has really helped me to grow professionally. You know, you can self-publish, and self-publishing is wonderful. It will teach you a lot. It'll teach you a lot about the publishing process of what you can and cannot do. But to grow yourself professionally, working with the publisher, I feel, is a necessity, knowing both. And Kendall Hunt has helped me to grow professionally, where I'm learning about how to work with the publisher, and they're making it so easy. I love Kendall Hunt. And as a matter of fact, I've recommended other professors to the Kendall Hunt family, because you really do feel like you're part of the family.